Hello and welcome wherever you are in the world. Whether you're listening from a quiet cabin in the mountains, a small apartment in a busy city, or a cozy bedroom nestled in the countryside, I'm so glad you're here. Before we drift into this gentle journey together, feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from, what time it is, and how you're feeling tonight. And if you find peace in this tale, if it helps calm your mind or guides you toward rest, please consider subscribing. It helps this little sanctuary of stories continue to grow, and it means more than you know. Now close your eyes. Imagine nothing but sky, a sky that stretches forever, pale and silent, with thin clouds trailing like smoke across a silver-blue canvas. Beneath it lies an endless land, wind-swept wide and whispering. This is the Mongol steppe, a place where the earth is flat as a thought and the wind knows every secret ever spoken. There is no border here, no walls, no trees, only grass that bends in silence and a horizon that never comes closer no matter how long you ride. This is the land that gave birth to horsemen who could vanish like mist, whose arrows flew before a cry could leave your throat, whose voices once shook the palaces of kings and emperors far away. But tonight there is no thunder of hooves, no war drums, only wind and breath. In the distance a fire flickers low. Its orange glow is swallowed by the dusk. Around it sit a handful of figures wrapped in thick robes, their faces lit by the shifting dance of flame and shadow. They do not speak loudly. They do not laugh. They listen. Because in the old ways silence was the soil where stories grew. And when an elder begins to speak, even the stars seem to lean closer. You sit among them now. You feel the dry chill of the evening on your cheeks, the fur beneath your fingers, the faint crackle of meat roasting on iron hooks. The air smells of horse sweat, wool ash, and pine resin. The smoke curls into the heavens as if it carries the breath of generations upward toward the eyes of Tengri, the eternal sky god. This is not a tale of conquest. It is not about the great Khan, nor the fury of siege engines, nor blood on snow. This story is quieter, more ancient. It is made of murmurs passed from one rider to the next, of dreams shared beneath stretched felt tents, of the ghosts that gallop unseen across moonlit plains. It is about the whispers that live beneath hoofbeats and behind the eyes of warriors. So now, breathe slowly. Let the wind of the steppe wrap around you. Let your mind become the sky. The story will find you. And when it does, it will come softly like a hoofprint in dew, like a shadow beneath eagle wings. Let us begin. You sit cross-legged on the hardened ground, the coarse wool beneath you barely softening the cold that seeps up from the steppe. Around you the fire crackles gently, its breath rising in wisps that twist and vanish into the deep blue sky. There is no roof here, only stars, and they are old stars, the kind that watched when wolves still ran alongside men, and when silence ruled the night more than words ever could. A child sits to your right. Thin, quiet, wrapped in thick felt, his nose red from the wind. He doesn't blink much. He stares straight ahead toward the figure across the fire, an elder with a face carved by seasons. His eyes are narrow, not from age, but from a habit of watching far distances. You can't tell how old he is. His skin could be leather or bark or dust. He does not smile. His voice, when it comes, is low and even like a drum beneath the earth. They say, the elder begins, that in the old days, horses could weep. No one laughs. No one questions. The child shifts closer to the flame, his small hands open to its warmth. It was not from pain, no, the man continues his gaze, not on the listeners, but somewhere over their heads toward a darkness only he can see, nor hunger. A horse does not cry from wounds, but grief, real grief. That kind of sadness that roots into the marrow. The fire pops sharply. You flinch, the child does not. There was once a mare, the elder says. She belonged to no tribe, wild, beautiful, with a coat the color of river stones and eyes darker than winter. They say she galloped faster than any arrow, and when she ran, the grass lay flat in her wake for days. You can feel it now, can't you? The air shifting, the night leaning closer. Somewhere in your mind, hooves beat the earth. Somewhere behind your eyes, a wind begins to rise. She had a foal, the elder says, small and bright and fast as a breeze, but the foal wandered too far. Into the hunting grounds of men. Not warriors, not hunters, but those who kill for gold, not food. The man pauses. You hear the wind pick up across the plains. It hisses through the tall grass, making it ripple like fur under an invisible paw. They took the foal, he says, his voice thin now, and they tied him to a post outside the village. They laughed at how he kicked and whinnied. They didn't know who he belonged to. You shift again unconsciously, leaning in. At night the mare came, the elder continues. No one saw her. No guard heard her. But in the morning the foal was gone, and in his place only a single hoof-print pressed so deep it cracked the earth. The fire dims, you blink slowly, the child beside you hugs his knees. They found the foal days later, he says, dead in the ravine, neck twisted, legs torn, not by men, by the steppe itself. No one speaks. And the mare, the child whispers. The elder turns. For the first time he looks directly at the boy. His eyes gleam with something you can't name. She came back, he says, to the village. Stood on the ridge where the sun rose, and she cried. A breath catches in your throat. They say her tears turned to stones, and where each one landed, no grass has grown since. The wind gusts suddenly hard enough to flick the fire sideways. Sparks leap into the sky like frightened insects. You feel your skin prickle not from cold, but from something older. The air tastes of iron now, and burnt wood, and something sweet you can't name. The elder settles back. His words fade into the hiss of wind and flame. No one asks if the story is true. On the steppe, truth is not always a matter of fact. Sometimes it is a shape, a sound, a feeling behind your ribs that doesn't go away. You look at the child again. He is staring at the stars now. And you wonder if someday he will be the one telling this story. Maybe not with the same words, but with the same silence between them. The same pause before the final line, the same look in the eye that makes the listener believe. Far away, a horse neighs in the dark. It could be real. It could be memory. It could be the whisper of hooves carried across time. You pull your robe tighter. The fire is low now, but you are not cold. Not entirely. There is warmth in the story, a small flickering warmth that stays even after the tale ends. And somewhere beneath your thoughts a single question rests like a stone. Can a horse really cry? The wind does not answer. It never does. The wind hasn't stopped. It threads through your hair, now cold and constant, as if trying to remind you that you are not home. You are here in a place that does not welcome or reject, but simply is. The Mongol steppe stretches all around you, endless, eternal, and it hums with old stories, the kind that ride on air and cling to the corners of your mind long after they are told. The fire crackles again. Someone tosses on a small branch wrapped in herbs. A fragrant smoke rises, something bitter and sharp. Mugwort, maybe, or juniper. The scent presses against your senses, grounding you. A ward, perhaps, or an offering. The elder speaks again. His voice is lower now, almost a murmur, like he's not speaking to the group anymore, but to someone beyond the fire's glow. Someone you can't see. Have you heard the tale of the fox, he asks. The one who wore a man's skin. You don't answer. You don't have to. No one speaks when he speaks. He shifts slightly, leaning forward. The firelight draws long shadows across his face, making the hollows of his cheeks look deeper, almost carved. His hands rest on his knees, steady, wrinkled, scarred by time. She came in winter, he begins, when the snow fell sideways and the trees stood naked and ashamed. Already the image takes shape. You feel the bite of frost on your cheeks. You see trees bending under white weight. You hear nothing but the wind whispering secrets between icy branches. She walked into the warrior's camp as if she had always belonged there. A young woman, hair like night eyes, like frozen lakes. She wore no fur, no armor, just a single gray robe torn at the hem. Your heart stirs not with desire but unease. They found her outside the yurts, the elder continues, kneeling in the snow, her hands bare. Her breath fogged in the air, but she said nothing. Not even when they spoke to her. Not even when they brought her in. You picture the scene, a ring of firelight in a sea of snow. Men clustered around, silent and suspicious. One woman still unmoving, a ghost in human shape. They fed her, the elder says, gave her warmth, wrapped her in wool and silence. She stayed, said nothing, watched everything. The fire pops. The elder leans closer. But the warrior, he says, the one who led them, he saw more. He felt it. Your breath catches. She did not blink, not once. And her eyes, they did not reflect the fire. The steppe hushes as if listening. He dreamed of her that night. But in the dream she had fur, a tail, teeth. He saw her walking upright, then crawling, then twisting between forms. The child near you shivers. But still the elder says he said nothing, and she remained. Days passed. Snow fell. The camp grew restless. Some said she was a blessing, a spirit sent to protect them through the long dark. Others whispered of curses of old gods in disguise. Then the elder says war came. You lean forward again. A rival clan struck under the cover of storm. Steel and fire in the dark. The warrior fought like a wolf, his blade slick with blood. But it was she, the quiet girl, who saved them. He pauses. The fire flares as if remembering. She screamed. One word, but it echoes. She screamed, he says again, and the air split. The attackers fell, their horses turned, the earth shook. It was not a human scream. You feel it now, not the sound, but the absence after it, like something had been torn open and stitched shut again in a single breath. They survived, all but her. She vanished in the snow. The elder looks into the flame. Only her robe remained, and beside it a single paw print, small, sharp red with blood. You glance around. No one moves. Even the fire has grown quiet. The elder continues, softer now. They say the fox spirits test warriors, not with swords but with trust, with silence, with love. If your heart is steady, they pass. If not, they stay and feed. You swallow. The child beside you leans into your side. Some say the elder whispers she was never real, just a wind-born vision, a test of the gods. But the warrior, he never took another wife, never led again. He wandered the steppe alone until his hair turned white, then gray, then gone. A gust of wind tears across the camp. You flinch. Somewhere in the distance a fox yips sharp, high, and lonely. The elder leans back, folding his hands. Do not chase what you do not understand, he says at last, and never trust eyes that do not reflect the fire. His voice fades. The flames burn lower now, casting long shadows across the ground. You stare into the darkness beyond the circle of light, half expecting to see a figure there. A girl in a torn robe, a glint of teeth, a flicker of a tail. But there is nothing. Only the wind, only the stories, only the steppe breathing its slow, ancient breath. You wake, though you hadn't noticed sleep coming. The fire is smaller now, burned down to red coals and the occasional flicker of orange. Around you the night has thickened, pressing gently against your shoulders. The others are still there, silent, wrapped in warmth, eyes reflecting the last of the flames. You shift slightly, your knees stiff, but your ears catch something before your thoughts fully rise. A sound, distant, rhythmic. Hoofbeats. Not a gallop, not yet, just a slow, steady trot. Measured, approaching. You feel it first in your chest like a second heartbeat. Then in your palms, resting on the earth, the tremble of something ancient drawing near. The elder lifts his eyes. He doesn't smile, doesn't speak immediately. He lets the moment stretch like the land around you. There was a night like this, he says, long ago, when the wind tasted the same and the horses stood restless. A pause. And the singing began. Your breath catches. Not from fear, not yet, but recognition. The world around you begins to feel less solid, more dreamlike. The flames seem to sway slower, now the shadows deeper. It was a caravan, the elder begins. 14 riders, warriors, scouts, a shaman. They rode east, seeking passage through the dunes before the frost sealed them in. They carried no banners. Their leader was a woman, tall, scarred, with hair the color of black pine. You see her now in your mind's eye, perched atop a lean horse, eyes narrowed to the horizon, a fur collar brushing her jaw, a bow slung over her shoulder, its wood carved with symbols you cannot read. They left before dawn, rode hard. The steppe stretched endless before them, sky a bowl of frozen blue. By midday the wind changed. By dusk the sand rose. A storm, not of rain, not of snow, but dust. The earth turned to cloud, the elder says. Fine grains filled the air, stung the eyes, clogged the lungs. They pressed on. What else could they do? You feel it. The grit on your teeth, the wind clawing your skin, the taste of dryness thick on your tongue. By nightfall, the elder continues, they could see nothing. Not the stars, not each other. Only the glow of the sand lit by moonlight swirling like smoke. They camped, made a ring of horses, lit no fires, sat with scarves over their faces and prayed, not loud, not to gods, just the kind of prayer that lives behind the ribs, wordless, desperate, and quiet. And then, the elder says, came the singing. You hear it in his voice, not the song itself, but its memory, a sound echoing across time. It didn't come from any mouth, not from any throat, it rose from the ground, like the earth itself was remembering. A low hum, melodic, old. It was beautiful, he says, but wrong. You shiver. Not from cold. The shaman stood, said nothing, took off her gloves, laid her hands on the dirt. The elder makes the gesture, fingers splayed, palms flat, like someone feeling for a pulse. She said they had passed into an old path, one used by the dead. A road carved not by horses, but memories. A place where the wind is thick with voices that never left. You look down, suddenly aware of the earth beneath you, dry, solid, but not still. One of the riders, the elder says, a boy not much older than the one beside you, now he began to sing. You glance at the child beside you. He stares into the fire, unmoving. It wasn't a song he knew, the elder continues. The melody came from his mouth, but his eyes were not his. The fire flickers. Somewhere out in the dark, you think you hear something. A hum, just at the edge of hearing. The others tried to stop him, but he rose, walked into the dust, singing. The elder's voice dipped lower. They followed. Couldn't leave him. The leader, the woman with pine-black hair, called out, but he did not stop. None of them did. You see them now. Figures moving in a blur of sand and shadow. Following a sound they cannot escape. The shaman screamed, said they had crossed a border not drawn on any map. A pause. She stayed behind, said someone must remember. You swallow, hard. In the morning the storm had passed. The dunes were still, the wind gone. No footprints, no horses, no song. Only the shaman remained, kneeling in silence, and one by one her fingernails had turned to stone. The elder breathed slowly. So do you. They say the song still lives, buried under centuries, and sometimes on nights like this it rises. Not loud, not angry, just waiting. The fire dims. A coal collapses. You watch the sparks drift upward like lost voices. If you hear it, the elder says, do not sing back. No one moves. The night leans in. You glance at the child again. His mouth is closed, but you think for a moment his lips moved. Not in breath, in tune. The wind answers. Or maybe it doesn't. The fire is low now, barely more than a circle of breathing coals. Around you, the others have drawn their cloaks tighter, not just against the cold, but against something else, something pressing in from the dark edges of the camp. You glance upward. The stars are still there, but they feel farther away tonight, as if retreating from the earth. The elder doesn't look at anyone. He stares into the embers, his voice barely rising above a whisper, as if he's telling this next tale, not to you, not to the listeners around the fire, but to the land itself. There is a mountain, he says, not the highest, not the grandest, but the most sacred, Burkhan Khaldun. He speaks the name like a prayer, and the syllables seem to sit heavier in the air. It rises gently like the back of a sleeping horse. No cliffs, no glory, but it watches. You picture it, the lonely rise of a mountain that does not demand reverence, only receives it. Mist clings to its sides, pines whisper at its feet, birds do not sing at its peak. Once a year, the elder says, before the grass turns golden and the rivers begin to shrink, the tribes gather at its base. You see them, hundreds of riders, women with hair braided tight, children barefoot in the morning dew, old men with eyes the color of ash. They come not with war nor trade, but silence and gifts. It is not a festival, he says, it is a calling. At the base of the mountain, fires are lit, not for warmth, not for cooking, but for memory. The shamans lead, he continues, wearing antlers or feathers or nothing at all. They walk barefoot. They carry drums made of horsehide and painted with spirals and suns. You hear it now, the soft, deep thump of drum beats, like footsteps of gods, like the echo of time. They do not speak. For 7 days no word is spoken. You feel your throat tighten, as if even now your voice would betray something sacred. They climb at dawn, the elder says, one by one. Not all make it. Some are turned back by wind or thought or dreams that strike them blind for an hour. He doesn't explain, he doesn't need to. At the summit they burn branches from trees that never grew there. Pine from the north, juniper from the west, sprigs carried across lifetimes. Ash rises, and they sing. You feel it now, the high, trembling sound of voices stretched between heaven and earth. The kind of song that has no beginning, no lyrics, only longing. They sing to call the ancestors, the elder murmurs. Not their own, all of them. The flames shift. A shadow flickers against your hand. You flinch just slightly. Some hear nothing he says. Some see faces in the smoke. Others are ridden. The word lingers sharp and cold. Ridden by what the child beside you finally asks. The elder looks up not at the boy, but at the sky. Memory, he answers. Sometimes grief, sometimes fury. You feel it now behind your back, the weight of something not entirely your own. There was once a girl, the elder says, daughter of a horse breeder. She was chosen to carry the blue scarf, the kadag, to the altar. An honor. You see her in your mind, young, solemn, her small hands trembling around a strip of silk the color of dawn. She climbed with the others, disappeared into the mist. When she returned, her hair had turned white. The child gasps. You say nothing. She did not speak. Not for days. Then one night she rose from her tent, walked to the center of the camp, and began to chant in a tongue no one knew. A pause. The elder's eyes narrow. An old woman heard it and wept. Said it was the language of a people who lived before the grass. The fire hisses. They watched as the girl stood there, arms raised, her voice rising into a windless night. Then lightning struck the ground around her, not from above, from below. You gripped the edge of your cloak. When they found her, she was smiling, her feet blackened, her voice gone. The elder leans forward. Every year a new voice is heard in that chant, but no one ever teaches it. Silence falls. Even the wind has paused. You close your eyes just for a moment. In the darkness behind your eyelids you see shapes. A mountain with no trail. A scarf fluttering in slow motion. Fire rising like breath. Then faintly you hear it, a drumbeat, but no one's hands move. The elder's face softens. His voice turns almost kind. Burkhan Khaldun remembers, he says, even when we forget. You feel it now that the land is listening too. And maybe, just maybe, it is remembering you. The coals are quiet now, breathing in and out with a dull red glow. You don't remember the fire dying, only that its light has become gentler, more tired. Around you the circle has tightened. Some have drawn their cloaks over their heads. Others sit still, unmoving, as if carved from the very earth. But all remain awake. Something in the stories holds them here, and it holds you too. The elder shifts again, his joints cracking softly in the silence. He lifts a hand, slow and deliberate, and brushes ash from his robe. Then, without preamble, he begins. There was a boy, he says. Not a child, but not yet a man. His name is gone now. The wind took it. But his shadow still walks these plains. You blink. Your breath draws shallow, as if you already know this story isn't meant to soothe. He was a warrior's son, the elder continues. Strong, brave, proud. He thought himself ready to ride with the army. Thought he knew the steppe. Thought he knew himself. You hear the doubt in the elder's tone, and in it you sense sorrow. They say he rode out alone under the full moon, seeking a sign. Something to prove his worth. You see him, a young man with fierce eyes, clutching a short bow, his cheeks chapped from cold, his braid tied tight behind his back. His horse is restless beneath him, sensing what he does not. He followed a trail, the elder says. Hoofprints that shouldn't have been there. Deep, heavy, fresh. You imagine it, the crunch of frost underfoot. The pale light casting sharp shadows, the silence broken only by the snort of a steed and the soft creak of leather straps. He followed the trail deep into a valley, the elder says, where the wind did not blow and the stars dimmed above. A place forgotten. The hoofprints ended at a pool, he says, still as glass, dark as blood. You feel a chill crawl up your spine. You're no longer sure this is just a story. He dismounted, the elder whispers, knelt beside the water, looked in. A pause, and what he saw was not his reflection. You draw a slow breath, heart beating a little faster. He saw himself, yes, but older, harder, eyes hollow. Hands soaked in something he couldn't name. A vision, a warning. He looked away, the elder continues, but the image did not fade. The water rippled, and from it rose a figure. You don't dare move. It wore his face. Silence falls for a moment. Then the elder leans closer, his voice barely audible. But it did not wear his voice. The figure spoke, he says, and it said only one thing. You will become me. The boy ran. You feel your own legs tense, as if preparing to do the same. He mounted his horse, lashed its sides, rode through the night without stopping. But wherever he turned, the stars were wrong. The wind came from behind, never in front. And the sound of hoofbeats was not his own. You hear them now, don't you, in the distance? Faint, syncopated, one beat always slightly off. He rode until his horse collapsed beneath him, the elder says, and still the hoofbeats followed. He paused then, and for a long moment says nothing. The fire lets out a final pop. Days later he stumbled into a herder's camp, he murmurs. Eyes sunken, skin torn by thorns. He spoke only one sentence before collapsing. The child beside you stirs. The elder does not turn, but repeats the words anyway. It's chasing me from inside. You stare at the coals. You think of all the mirrors you've looked into, the faces you've worn, the thoughts you've buried. They kept him alive, the elder says, but he never laughed again, never rode again. Some nights he would stare into the darkness and whisper to someone no one else could see, the shadow of his other self. One night, the elder adds softly, he walked into the steppe without a word. Left everything behind. No tracks, no trail, and then more quietly still. But every so often, in the deep night when you think you're alone, you may hear it. A second set of steps, just behind your own. You don't look around, you don't want to. Not a ghost, the elder finishes. Just the man you might become. You breathe slowly, deliberately. The fire glows faint orange. The wind has returned soft again, brushing your cheek like a warning wrapped in comfort. Beside you, the child is curled against his blanket. His eyes remain open. You wonder if he too heard footsteps or saw a reflection that didn't quite follow. The night remains. The steppe holds its breath. And you sit still just long enough to feel the weight of your own shadow stretching behind you. The night deepens. There is no clock here, no ticking of hands, no neon numbers glowing on a screen. Only the pulse of the fire, slower now, like a heartbeat grown drowsy. The stars above you shimmer faintly behind a veil of thin mist, and you realize the silence has shifted. It is no longer the hush of expectation, but of something older. A silence that listens back. The elder hasn't moved, but his eyes are distant now, fixed somewhere far from this camp, this fire, this moment. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of many winters. Dreams, he says, are not always ours. You blink. The others stir slightly, not because they don't understand, but because they do. Too well. There was a family, the elder begins. 3 generations. A grandmother with eyes like stone. Her daughter strong and quiet. And a grandson born on the night of a red moon. You picture them, a yurt lit with soft lamp glow. The baby swaddled in wool, the wind howling just beyond the felt walls. The boy was strange from the start, the elder says. He laughed in his sleep, cried at full moons, and by the time he spoke he already knew stories no one had told him. The child beside you stirs. You glance down. His hands are folded now, fingers curled tight. They say, the elder continues, he dreamed the same dream every year on the same night. A mountain of fire, a river of bones, and a voice calling his name in a tongue no living person knew. He pauses. And then when he was 7, his grandmother died in her sleep, smiling. You hear the wind rustle the grass. It sounds like pages turning. After her funeral, the boy didn't speak for 3 days, the elder says. And when he did, he said this, "She gave me the rest of the dream." Your skin prickles. The boy changed after that. Grew quieter. Woke at strange hours. Walked outside barefoot in the snow. One night his mother followed him. He stood in the field behind their camp, eyes closed, whispering words she'd never heard before in a rhythm that made her legs lock with fear. She dragged him back inside, the elder says, wrapped him in furs, held him tight. But when he opened his eyes, he looked at her as if she were a stranger. You imagine it, the flicker of recognition fading from a child's gaze. A mother grasping at the shape of a soul that no longer fits. The dreams came louder, the elder says. Not just on one night, every night. He stopped sleeping, stared at walls, drew symbols in the dirt. Some days he spoke as if he were someone else. You lean in. You know this story isn't about ghosts. It's about memory. He began to draw maps, the elder says. Not of the land, but of the past. Strange curves, names long buried, lines between things no one remembered being connected. And then he says he asked to be taken to the Valley of the Black Stone. No one knew such a place. Not exactly. But the elders conferred, whispers were exchanged, and an old herder said yes, he had heard of such a place once. Only once. They traveled together, the elder says, the boy, his mother, and the old herder. For 3 days they followed rivers, crossed ridges, slept in the wind. On the 4th day they found it. You see it now, a narrow valley shadowed even at noon, silent, holding its breath. And at its center, a single black stone, smooth tall, not native to the land. He approached it, the elder says, laid his hand on it, and he began to speak. In the dream tongue, the mother wept. The herder turned away. The boy spoke for hours. And when he finished, he said, "Now I remember who I was." The elder looks up at the stars as if asking whether they were watching that day. They brought him home, he says, but he was never a boy again. A stillness settles over the group. The child beside you is staring into the fire, his lips slightly parted. He looks younger now, or older. The elder finishes quietly. They say some souls carry dreams across lifetimes, like seed carried by wind. They land where they must, and sometimes they bloom again. You don't move. You barely breathe. The air around you feels heavier, but not in a threatening way. It's full of echoes of footsteps long erased, of thoughts that never learned how to die. In the far distance, an owl calls a single note stretched across the dark. You look into the fire again, and you wonder whose dream are you still dreaming. The air is colder now, not from the wind which has grown shy again, but from something in the way the night settles on your skin, like a memory returning after too long buried. The fire gives off no more flames, only a slow, rhythmic glow pulsing like a breath or a heartbeat left behind in the ash. No one speaks, but the elder does not wait for permission. His voice rises once more, gentle but firm, like the edge of a blade wrapped in silk. There was a bow, he says, and it killed no one. You frown, not visibly, but somewhere behind your eyes. A bow that kills no one. It belonged to a queen, the elder continues. A woman not born into rule, but carved by war. She came from the east, hair black as pitch-skin, gold as sun-baked wheat. Her voice could split silence like thunder. But her hands were always steady. You imagine her now standing on a rise bough, slung across her back, eyes sharp as falcon's claws, cloak fluttering like smoke in a wind only she could summon. She was wed to a Khan she did not love, the elder says, a union forged in treaty, not tenderness, and yet she ruled beside him wisely, justly, until the day he died. Your chest tightens, you already feel what's coming. He was poisoned, the elder says, his voice a thread pulled slow, not by enemies but kin. The betrayal runs deep, deeper than blood. She wept once, he says. Then never again. She took the bow he had gifted her, curved and carved from wood brought from the high mountain groves, inlaid with silver, named for the sky itself, Tengri's whisper. And she strung it with her own hair, the elder adds softly, tore it free with a knife, bound it tight, and swore never to fire it. You wonder what kind of weapon becomes sacred not in use but in refusal. She wore it always, he says, across her back, through councils, hunts, war marches. When asked why, she said, "It is for the one who betrayed me. Not for killing, for remembering." A wind stirs, then gentle, brushing your cheeks. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you smell dried pine resin and sweat-soaked silk. Years passed, he says, and still she ruled, with precision, with quiet fury. Her armies grew, her court feared her, but none ever saw her fire that bow. And then one night the ghost arrived. You pause. Not a spirit, the elder clarifies. A man cloaked and shivering found just outside her camp, his tongue torn, his hands bloodied. Around his neck hung a coin bearing the seal of the murdered Khan. You close your eyes. You don't want to see what comes next. But the story unfolds anyway. She had him brought in, the elder says, sat before him, laid the bow across her lap. The fire flickers, casting her imagined face in golden crackling light. She did not speak, the elder says. He could not. But his eyes held recognition. And then she strung the bow. No arrows, just the string. She drew it, the elder says, held it taut, and stared into his eyes. You lean forward, your breath shallow. She held it for 3 days. 3 days. No sleep, no food. Only her and the bow and the man who could not speak. And on the 3rd dawn, the elder says, he wept, bled from the nose, and fell to the ground. He didn't die, not then. But when he woke, his tongue had returned, the elder says, and he screamed one name, the name of the Khan's brother, the real traitor. But the brother, the elder says, had died years earlier, in a hunting accident. A lie, a shield. She had known, he says, all along, but waited for proof. And still she did not fire the bow. She unstrung it, laid it across the fire, and let the flames take it. You flinch. Not to destroy, he says, but to release. The ashes, they say, scattered into the night, and from them grew reeds that sang when the wind passed through. The traitor's bloodline vanished within 3 generations, the elder whispers. But not by sword, by forgetting. No one remembered them. Not their names, not their faces, not their crimes. And the queen, she ruled until her hair turned silver, he says. Then one day rode alone into the east, toward the groves from which her bow had been carved, and was never seen again. The fire is almost out now. Only coal and silence remain. She left no heirs, the elder says, only stories, and the sound of the wind through reeds. You glance beyond the fire circle. The grass sways slightly, and you think for just a moment that you hear music. Not from strings, but from memory. A song made of restraint. A weapon that never struck. A name remembered, not spoken. A silence has settled now, not of absence, but of reverence. The fire is nearly gone. Just a basin of ember glowing faint beneath the dark sky. Smoke curls upward in slow ribbons, twisting like thoughts that refuse to leave. You are no longer cold, but neither are you warm. The air has thickened as if the steppe has drawn closer, folding its breath around the circle of listeners. Then the elder closes his eyes. When he speaks again, the words come slower, lower, like they're meant for the bones beneath your skin. There is a song, he says, that calls the dead. You do not move. Not all the dead, he adds, only those without graves. The wind shifts, brushing past your cheek like the hem of a passing robe. The child beside you sits upright now, no longer curled in his blanket. His hands are in his lap. His eyes are wide. It begins with a horse, the elder says. Always a horse. A black one, lean and long-legged, with a mane that never knots. It walks into the camp without sound. No rider, no tether. Only a stringed instrument strapped across its back, the morincour. The horse waits. It does not eat, it does not drink. It simply stands beside the fire until someone notices. And then someone always plays. They do not choose to, the elder says. Their hands move on their own. You see it now, a man perhaps, or a woman, or a child, reaching slowly for the strings as if in dream, bowing gently, and then music. Not a song with words. A sound like wind passing through ribs, like snow falling on stone, like a name you used to know. They say it calls them the elder murmurs, those who died without blessing, warriors left unburied, mothers who vanished in childbirth, children who disappeared between seasons. You feel it deep, not fear but ache, like remembering someone you loved and never said goodbye to. They come, he says, not in bodies, in breath, in shadow, in the slight weight that presses the grass flat where no foot has stepped. The horse remains. The player continues. No one interrupts. Not until the last note fades. And when it does, someone is always gone. You do not ask who, you do not ask why. You look around the circle now. No one speaks, but you feel it, the shift. There were more of you earlier, weren't there? You try to remember each face, and fail. The elder exhales slowly. Then with the softest smile he says, but sometimes the song brings one back. Your heart stirs. A boy, he continues, was lost in a blizzard. 12 years old. His father searched for 5 days. No trail, no blood, only silence. They burned herbs. They cut open a mare's belly and laid the father inside as old magic demanded. He dreamt of hooves, of wind, of a sound like crying. And when he woke, the black horse stood outside the camp. He knew. He played, the elder says, though he had never held the morin cour before. The notes came, unbidden, woven of grief. And at dawn the boy stood just beyond the yurt, barefoot in the snow, alive. He never spoke of where he had been. Only this: the music told me the way back. You exhale. The fire pulses once more, a long breath of orange light. The elder looks into it, as if watching an old face move behind the flame. There are no graves on the steppe, he says, only places where the wind changes. And sometimes when it does, it brings music. You listen now, not just with ears, but with your whole body. And in the rustle of grass, the hush of distant plains, the hush between heartbeats, you almost hear it. A bow sliding across strings. A name whispered back into the world. A welcome. Or a farewell. You do not know which. But you listen. You always will. The smoke has thinned now, rising in pale strands that vanish almost before they're seen. You can no longer feel the fire, not its heat, not its light. Only its scent remains, a memory of burning pine, dry grass, and something sweeter, older, like amber, cracked in a forgotten shrine. The night around you breathes softly, and the silence holds like a deep exhale stretched across the plain. Then the elder's voice returns. You hear it before you see his lips move, slow, soft, smooth as a pebble shaped by centuries of river. There is a spring, he says, hidden in the folds of the steppe, not marked on any map, not whispered in any camp. You do not find it. It finds you. You feel something shift inside, like a door opening that you hadn't realized was closed. It does not shine, the elder continues. It does not sing. It does not heal. But it knows. 3 people found it once, he says. Not at once, not together. One was a soldier, scarred, limping, with hands that still shook from the killing. One was a woman who had lost both children to fever in the same week. One was a monk who had lost his faith on the day he was chosen to lead. They did not seek the spring, the elder says. They were simply walking, alone, with no more forward in them, only down. But the land shifted, and they found themselves in the same valley on the same morning. You see it, a hollow between 2 low hills, the grass shorter, the wind still, and at its center a circle of smooth stones. Water so clear you could mistake it for air. They did not speak to one another, the elder says. There are moments when speech is not needed, when pain is the only language. Each one drank. No one invited the others. No one needed to. And something changed. Not their bodies. Their seeing. They saw not with eyes, the elder whispers, but with memory. The soldier saw every life he had ended, but from their eyes. He saw their final thoughts, the faces they pictured as they died. Some angry, some calm, one smiling. The woman saw her children not dead but older, one plucking at a lute, the other laughing beneath a tree. She saw the lives they would have had, the mistakes they would have made, the regrets they never lived long enough to know. And the monk saw a god, but it did not look like he expected. No robes, no radiance, no judgment. Just a mirror, clear, still, silent. They wept, the elder says, not from grief, from understanding. They slept that night without dreams. And when morning came, they each walked in a different direction. No one looked back, and only one returned. You feel your shoulders tense. He was old by then, the elder continues, bones like dry wood, hair gone, but his eyes, he trails off. The wind picks up slightly, tugging at your sleeves. They were not old, they were clean. He carried nothing, no bag, no tools, only a single jar, and in it just enough water for one more person. He did not drink it. He placed the jar at the edge of another fire years later in another camp, and waited. No one touched it, until one night a boy not yet 12 wandered out of his yurt and found it. He drank, and returned home without a word. But from that day on he never spoke falsehood again. Not because he feared lies, because he no longer saw the need for them. The elder lets the story fade, like mist, like the last trace of steam above a hot spring as the wind cools the surface. You think of that valley, that water, and all the things you carry that you've never said aloud. You wonder if you found that spring, what would you see? Would you weep? Would you return? Would you speak again? The embers crackle briefly, and the wind, perhaps kinder now, brushes your neck like a gentle hand. You are still. But inside you something shifts. A ripple, a silence broken, a thirst remembered. And somewhere far out in the dark the spring waits, not to be found, only to be needed. The hush grows heavier now, as though even the night has begun to listen. The embers glow faint and slow, no longer red, but a deep dull orange like the last light beneath a long-closed lid. Around the circle no one has left. Even sleep has not taken them. Something in these stories has made the body still, and the mind linger, and the soul lean forward just slightly to hear what comes next. The elder breathes in, the pause stretches. Then with a voice barely above the wind he begins. Sometimes he says the steppe makes a sound that has no source. You don't understand at first. A cry, he continues, a scream, a laugh, a whisper, loud, clear, but no mouth made it, no body claimed it, and yet everyone hears it. You glance around. The others do not move, but their eyes are darker now, shadows caught behind the iris. It doesn't come often, the elder adds, but when it does, the horses know first. You feel it even now, the way an animal tenses before a storm, the way silence suddenly sharpens. There was a summer, he says, not too long ago, when a sound came that split the camp in two. A noise, he says, just after dusk, sharp, high, then deep, then gone, like a throat being torn in reverse. The herd scattered, he murmurs. All 200 head, gone in a blink. Men shouted, but no sound followed their mouths. Drums were struck, but the beats didn't land. Everything was still, except the wind and the echo. He says it like that, not the sound, but the echo, as if the sound was only the beginning. No one could say what it was, the elder continues, but everyone remembered what they felt. You brace. Guilt, he says, not fear, not grief, but guilt. The kind that lives in the marrow, the kind you think you've buried until the earth above it trembles. That night no fires were lit. The yurt stayed zipped. Dogs refused to bark. Children did not cry. And then at dawn the horses returned. All of them. All calm. All facing east. They stood that way for hours, the elder says, as if waiting or mourning. Then one by one they lay down and slept. You inhale slow. They dream, the elder says, far deeper than we ever will. No one in that camp left for 7 days. They cooked little, spoke less. Some said they saw shapes at the edge of the grass. Others said nothing, but lit incense at the corners of their yurts and placed bowls of milk on the ground for guests who never showed their faces. And then on the 8th day someone laughed. It was a child, playing alone. The sound rang out clear, high, innocent. And just like that it was over. The spell, the echo, the hush, gone. The horses stood again, the elder says. The dogs barked. The men exhaled. But none of them forgot. Even now, when the wind shifts and a sound comes sharp and sudden with no clear place to point, they stop and listen, not for danger, but for memory. Because some say the steppe is remembering something even it cannot forget. A war before time, a lie never confessed, a promise broken beneath the stars. And sometimes the land groans beneath the weight of it. You shiver, not from cold, from recognition. You think of every word you've swallowed, every thought you buried, every moment you looked away. And you wonder if the steppe could speak in your voice, what would it say? What sound would it make? What echo would it leave? The elder says nothing more. He does not need to. You sit still, but inside a sound is forming, not loud, not clear, just the shape of a truth. Almost remembered. The cold has shifted again. It's not the bite of wind now, but something deeper. The kind of chill that presses from the inside out like a memory resurfacing in the body before it reaches the mind. The fire is no longer fire. Just a low, warm breath glowing in a bed of ash, as if the earth itself is exhaling beneath you. You think you see something move beyond the circle, but it's only grass and silence. The elder's eyes are closed when he begins again. His voice, when it comes, is fainter, worn like a stone, smoothed by the tide of many tellings. There was once a woman, he says, who married a shadow. The words slip over the air like smoke. She was the daughter of a weaver, he continues, born in a camp that no longer exists. Her face was like river light, her hand steady, her song sweeter than milk, and yet no one dared ask for her hand. You tilt your head, listening deeper, because of the story, he says, the old one, the one they only told in winter, of the fox or wolf or spirit that came for brides who sang in their sleep. She sang, every night, not loud, not with words, but with a hum that made the oil in the lamps flicker. The dogs would stand, the horses would face the east, and always at the edge of the yurt a shape would watch, tall, still, just beyond the lamplight. She said nothing, the elder murmurs, not even when her father grew pale, not even when her mother wept. She braided her hair, lit incense, and on the night of her 17th spring she walked out into the dark. You see her quiet steps, straight back, pale robe moving like fog. No fear, only knowing. She returned before dawn. alone, but not empty. She was different, the elder says, her eyes darker, her smile slower, and behind her in the grass not footprints, but paw prints. You feel it now, that strange thrum of otherness, as if the story itself is watching you from the shadows behind your back. She carried no ring, no name, but she spoke of her husband often kindly as if he were real. She never described him, the elder continues, only said he came at night, and when he left her dreams were full of stars. The seasons passed, and then she was with child. No one dared say a word, not to her, not to each other. But they watched, they listened, they waited. She gave birth on a windless night, he says. No midwife, no scream, only the smell of firewood and jasmine and something wrong. The child lived, a boy, silent, eyes like glass, like lakes that never freeze but never ripple. He never cried, the elder says. Not once. Not when he was hungry, not when he was burned, not even when his mother died. Yes, the mother died. Not suddenly, slowly. She faded the way breath does when it doesn't return. She smiled, the elder says, even in death. She said, "He will remember me even when I forget myself." The boy was raised by the wind. No one claimed him. No one could. He walked each day to the edge of the grass, stood still, and looked east. Always east. They say he speaks to someone there, the elder murmurs. No one hears the reply, but his head tilts, his eyes blink, and then he smiles. He grows, but never changes, and sometimes on nights like this, when the moon is thin and the grass lies flat and the dogs sleep with their paws covering their eyes, he walks, not into the camp, but around it. And wherever he steps, the dew does not return. You breathe in slowly. Something inside you recognizes this rhythm, this quiet dread wrapped in lullaby. The elder's voice is thin now, like smoke through reeds. They say he is still here, he says, somewhere, never old, never young, waiting. For what? No one knows. Maybe for his mother. Maybe for the one who watches from the east. Maybe just for silence to fill him whole. You glance across the fire ring, and for a moment you think one person is missing. But you cannot say who. The fire is nearly gone now. Only a faint breath of warmth remains, barely enough to see by, and yet somehow everything is still visible. Not with the eyes, but with something deeper, something old. You feel the edges of the camp blur, not dissolve, just soften like a dream pulling away from waking. The elder doesn't move for a long while. Then, without lifting his gaze from the glowing embers, he speaks. There was a rider, he says, but he had no head. No one stirs, no one asks, because in this land some stories are not questioned. They say he rides only on the full moon, the elder continues, and only through camps that have forgotten the name of the last person who died there. You feel the stillness press down, the kind that makes you remember what you tried to let go. He does not gallop, he does not chase, he passes. The elder draws a slow breath, but when he passes, the dead remember. You lean forward, though your body doesn't move. Something in your chest tightens, not in fear, but in recognition, as if a part of you already knows this rider, not from stories, but from somewhere further back. He carries no weapon, the elder says, only a bowl, a small chipped bowl. It sits in his lap, and as he rides it fills. With what? No one knows. Not until the bowl tips. And it always tips. Some say it's blood, the elder murmurs. Some say tears. Some say it's memory collecting like rain. He pauses. The wind does not. One night, he continues, he passed through a village that had no fire. It had rained for days. The ground was soft. The dogs did not bark. You see it now, a cluster of tents, dark, heavy with damp. No sound, no light, just breath and shadow. They say the youngest child there, a girl with white braids, was the only one to wake. She heard hoofbeats, slow, heavy, measured. She crept to the door, lifted the flap, and saw him. No head, no reins. Just a rider, tall, upright, the bowl steady in his lap, liquid inside, glowing faintly with something too dark to be water, too clear to be blood. He passed in silence. But the girl, she stepped out, not to stop him, not to follow, just to watch. And he stopped. He turned, slowly. Though he had no face, she said later, she felt his gaze like frost, like thunder held in a palm. And then he held out the bowl. She didn't run, the elder says. She stepped forward. She reached out. But before her fingers touched it, he vanished. Not galloped, not disappeared. Vanished. The bowl hit the earth and shattered. What spilled from it soaked into the dirt. And in the morning, the village remembered the name of a woman they had lost. No one had spoken it in years. They carved it into a stone, placed it by the river, and from that day forward, no one ever forgot the dead again. Not their names, not their voices, not even the way they tied their hair. The elder's voice quiets further. Now when the moon is full, he says, the people light fires, say names aloud, speak the stories of those who've gone. Not to honor, to protect, from forgetting. You glance upward. The moon hangs low tonight, wide and golden like a bowl itself, waiting to be filled. You wonder what you've forgotten, who you've forgotten, and what might return if only to be remembered once more. A horse neighs far off in the dark, not close, not distant, just far enough to remind you that the steppe is vast, and not everything riding through it needs to be seen, only heard, only named, only held in silence like a bowl cupped gently between two hands. The silence after the last story is the heaviest yet, not oppressive reverent, the kind of stillness that falls in temples and ruins where time seems to hang just above the ground, listening. The fire has become a memory. The only light now comes from the moon washed pale and full above the wide-open steppe. It casts shadows that feel older than the things that made them. The elder folds his hands. His face, worn and unreadable, tilts slightly upward. It was winter, he says, a hard one, the kind that bites through the seams of your clothes and settles behind your eyes, the kind that makes wood split before it burns. You feel the cold even now wrapping around your shoulders, filling the spaces between your ribs. There had been a battle, he continues, not far from the river bend. No one remembers the cause, only the silence afterward. Dozens dead, maybe more. The snow covered them quickly, too quickly, the ground too hard to dig. And so the tribe did what they could. They gathered the bodies, horse and man, placed them side by side, and waited for what you almost ask, but the elder answers before you can speak. For the song. He says it without drama, as if speaking of rain or hunger. There is a song, he says, meant only for warriors, for those who died with their eyes open, their hands unclean, their names heavy. It is not sung by the living. It sings itself. They call it the last lullaby. You breathe slower. They built a circle from stones and bones, placed the bodies gently, not in rows but in mirrors, man facing horse, warrior facing warrior, child facing father. And when the circle was closed, they waited, not around it, far away, far enough that the breath of the dead could move. On the third night, the elder says, it began. A low hum, like ice cracking beneath deep water, like breath caught in the throat of a sleeping god. No words, no rhythm, only a vibration. The wind did not move, the trees did not stir, but inside each yurt the people wept. They said it wasn't sadness, it was memory, all of it. The weight of footsteps across blood, the feel of reins between fingers, the sound of a name shouted in victory or screamed in loss. And then, just before dawn, one final note. So high, so long, so thin it passed through bone. And then silence. They returned to the circle. The bodies were gone. No blood, no tracks. Only the stones remain, now blackened at the center. And from that place no grass has grown since. They do not mark it on maps, the elder says, but they do not ride through it either. A sacred absence. Once a year, on the coldest night, someone returns, alone, carrying a saddle with no horse. They walk the circle, lay the saddle in the center, sit, and wait until the snow begins to fall, and the hum returns. You feel something rise in your chest, not fear, not awe, just a long, slow ache, like the ache of hands that once held a friend's blood, or a name you once shouted that no longer belongs to anyone. The elder exhales. The dead do not ask for revenge, he says, only rest. You look at the moon again, so round, so pale. It seems to hold every unsaid word, every scream held back, every goodbye never given. And tonight you hear it too, a hum, so faint you almost mistake it for your own heartbeat. But it's not. It's older, softer. And it doesn't ask you to remember, only to listen. The night is no longer quiet. It hasn't grown loud, no, but something stirs beneath the silence, like footsteps in snow too soft to crunch, like breath in a room you thought was empty. You don't look around. You don't need to. Whatever it is, it's not in the dark beyond the camp. It's in the stories, the ones still being spoken, and the ones yet to come. The elder doesn't speak at first. His eyes remain half closed, reflecting nothing. When his voice comes, it does not rise. It sinks. There was once a wind, he says, that remembered a war. The others sit straighter. No one speaks, but you feel the attention harden, like an arrow being drawn, not loosed. The war had no name, the elder continues. It came before kings, before horses had saddles, before drums had skin. You try to picture that, a war without songs or scrolls, without flags or prayers. A war not remembered but still unfinished. They say the wind carried the sounds of that war, the elder says, for centuries, across dunes, through valleys, across oceans. It never stopped moving, because the war never ended. It waited, he says, not for peace, for remembrance. And one night it came back, not as a storm, not as a curse, as a breath. You feel it now, the way the air brushes the hair on your arms, the way it seems to listen before it moves. There was a camp, the elder says, like this one, fires low, eyes tired, a storyteller finishing his final tale. He pauses. The fire between you crackles once, a sharp hiss like an exhale. And then the wind came. It moved low, the elder says, near the ground, like it crawled. It did not howl, it did not roar. It whispered, in no known tongue, but every ear understood. The old man dropped his drum. The women clutched their children. The horses lay down without command. And the storyteller, he went still. They said his mouth moved, the elder says, but no one heard his voice, only the wind through his lips. You shiver, you don't mean to. He began to walk, the elder continues, out of the camp, into the grass, alone. Some followed, most didn't. The ones who did said the grass parted ahead of him like a road being unrolled. They said he never blinked. And then they heard it, not the wind, the battle. Not around them, the elder says, inside them. Shouts, metal, screams, hooves, the sound of breath being stolen from a throat. Each person heard something different, but all of it came from a place older than sound. The wind rose, and the storyteller vanished. No trail, no scent, just the wind, still whispering. They say the elder murmurs that when a war is forgotten, it does not end. It waits. Waits for wind, waits for voice. Waits for someone to remember not what it meant, but how it felt. The grass still grows in that place, but it bends strangely, not in rhythm, not in time. And on certain nights when the moon is hollow and the sky too clear, some say the grass moves before the wind comes. Like something underneath is shifting, lifting, returning. You close your eyes, and for a moment you hear it too. A cry. Not yours, but familiar. It echoes inside you, and then fades. Not into silence, into stillness. The elder finishes quietly. Some say that's why we tell stories, he says, to give the wind a place to rest. You open your eyes. The fire is no longer a fire, just coals, just breath. Just the last warmth between this world and whatever waits beyond the steppe. And tonight it has listened well. You haven't moved in what feels like hours. The fire is no more than a memory now. A darkened hollow ringed with faint light. The cold seeps in slowly, not cruelly, just honestly. The steppe doesn't pretend warmth. It offers only what it has: sky, wind, and space enough for every silence to echo. The elder leans back. For the first time his voice sounds tired. But still he speaks. There was a woman, he says. Old, blind, alone. He lets the words sit in the air for a while. She lived in a yurt made of patched felt and memory. No family, no visitors, just a dog with one ear and a wall of bones she called her library. You raise your eyes. A wall of bones. Yes, bones. Rib bones, leg bones, vertebrae, even bird skulls strung together like wind chimes. Not from hunting, not from killing, from stories. She said every bone had a story, the elder says. And when she touched them, she could remember. She could not see, but she could feel the curve of sorrow in a horse's femur, the twist of betrayal in a broken scapula, the sharpness of joy in a bird's hollow wing. She never forgot a single tale, the elder murmurs, not one. People called her mad, or worse, cursed, but still sometimes they came. Not for prophecy, for remembering. She didn't tell stories like we do, he says, not with voice, with touch. A child would come, sit beside her, and she would press a bone into their palm. Feel, she'd say, just feel. And they would cry, or laugh, or shake, because the story was not told to them, it was awakened in them. The elder pauses. One day a rider came, wrapped in silk, clean hands, empty eyes. He asked her for a story. Not any story, his. She said nothing, the elder says, just handed him a bone. A small one, clean, old. He held it, waited, but nothing came. He pressed her. What does this mean? What do I need to know? She only said, that bone is yours. He grew angry. Accused her of fraud, of madness, of trickery. She said nothing. He left. That night lightning struck his tent. No one else's, just his. Nothing burned, except the bone. Gone. Ash. He never came back, the elder says. But some say he wanders still holding stories in his hands that never learned how to speak. You sit quietly now, your hands resting lightly on your knees. And you wonder what bones you carry, what stories live beneath your skin, not told, not shown, but shaped. You look down at your palms, your fingers, your ribs, and for a moment you feel it. Not pain, not memory, but shape. The shape of something trying to surface. And maybe if someone pressed their hand to your chest just right, they would feel your story too. Not in words, in bone. The wind is rising again. Not fast, not sharp, but slow and steady, like breath returning to a sleeping body. The embers have cooled a dull gray beneath the ash, yet still they seem to pulse. You sit in the hush, wrapped in the weight of everything you've heard. The stories cling to the air, now heavy as mist, and none dare speak above them. The elder's voice returns more worn than before, like it's reaching its last rhythm. There was a song, he says, that no one remembered learning. You look up, and no one ever sang it twice. You lean forward almost involuntarily. It was never taught, he continues, never passed down. But every few years someone would sing it. A child, a traveler, a dying man. And when they did, those who heard it would cry. the kind of cry without sobs, just tears rising slow and spilling without force. No one knew the words the elder says, and when it ended they forgot the tune. You feel your breath catch slightly as if your body recognizes something your mind cannot. They called it the vanishing lullaby, he says, because those who sang it disappeared. Not vanished into smoke, not taken by spirits, just gone. One moment there, the elder says the next not. He tells of a girl who sang it at the edge of a river during spring thaw. Her parents heard it from the yurt. By the time they arrived, the girl's shoes remained still warm, but the grass beneath her feet was untouched, as if she had never stood there at all. Another tale, a herder old, nearly blind, humming the tune while mending a saddle. He'd never sung before. His family watched from outside, listening, unable to move. When they stepped in, the needle was still threaded, the saddle half repaired, the room silent. But the man was gone, the elder says. No blood, no ash, just absence. It was not a curse, he adds softly, nor a punishment. It was something else. They say the song belongs to a place that remembers everyone he says, a place without name or shape. But when it hears your voice in the right moment, it calls you home. No one ever feared the song, he says, only longed for it, in secret, quietly. Some spent their whole lives waiting to hear it. Others tried to force it to mimic the tune, to carve the rhythm into drumskin or bone flute. None succeeded, because it did not come from want. It came when it came. Like a dream, the elder whispers, that was not yours, but still waited for you. You sit still, heart beating softly. You think of all the songs you've forgotten, the ones your mother may have sung, the ones you hummed once beneath your breath but lost before you knew you needed them. You wonder if it came to you tonight, would you sing? Would you vanish? Would you even notice you were gone? The elder exhales. They say he murmurs that the last time the song was heard was in a camp like this one. Years ago, winter, a child no older than 7. She stood beside the coals, looked at the stars, and sang. No one stopped her, no one breathed. No one remembered the melody after, but the feeling stayed. Some say they still carry it in their sleep, in the way they look at clouds in the pause between heartbeats when everything feels almost too quiet. A feeling like goodbye, and not sadness, just softness. The elder does not speak again for a long time. The wind moves gently now, as if cradling something, as if listening, as if waiting for a note that has not yet returned. You are not sure when the elder last moved. His breath is soft, almost invisible, like mist clinging to the mouth of an ancient cave. The others around you are silent now, not only in respect but in surrender, as though the stories have shaped them, quieted them, carved them into listening. And now the final tale begins. There was once a fire, the elder says, like this one. But you know he doesn't mean this exact fire. He means the first fire, the very first flame that burned not for warmth but for remembrance. He pauses. It was tended by a man with no name. He had once been a storyteller, but one day he stopped telling, not from sorrow, not from silence, but because one story had never finished. It began, the elder says, long before him. He found its pieces scattered across the land, in the hooves of wild horses, in the cracks of frozen rivers, in the breath of dying warriors, in the sleep of children who never woke. And so he built a fire, a small one, a quiet one, and each night he waited. Someone would come, not always a person, sometimes a shadow, sometimes a wind, sometimes only a sound, a hoofbeat with no horse, a sob with no throat, a drumbeat that arrived before the hand. And when they came, they would bring a piece, a whisper, a face, a single word. He did not write them. He did not speak them. He placed each one into the flame. And the fire remembered. It grew not in size but in depth. It burned without wood, without smoke, only light. Some say they saw their ancestors in it. Others saw strangers, and some saw themselves but older, tired, forgiven. One night, the elder says, he placed the last piece in, and the fire went still, not out. Still, it stopped flickering. It stopped glowing. It simply held, like breath before a cry. And when he looked into it, he saw nothing and everything, because the story had ended. And in ending, it had begun. He stood, folded his hands, and vanished, but not as others had vanished, not into air, into memory. They say he became the fire, the elder whispers, not the flame, the remembering. Since then no one has seen him, but sometimes in places like this, in circles like this, a fire will burn a little too quietly, and someone will say a name they had forgotten they knew, or remember a face that no one ever showed them, or wake with tears on their cheeks and no sorrow in their chest, and they will know. The fire had listened, and the story had arrived. You look now at the circle you sit within, the eyes beside you, the coals that still breathe faint light. You wonder if this is that fire, if this is that story, and if maybe you were always meant to be here, not to hear it, to finish it. The elder shifts. His hands fall into his lap. He looks at you, not above, not beyond, at you, and smiles. Not kindly, not sadly, just completely. And then he closes his eyes, and the wind picks up. Not loud, just enough to stir the ash, just enough to carry something away. And when you look again, he is gone. No sound, no trace, only the fire, still, and you remain. Wrapped in stories, wrapped in silence, wrapped in the night of the Mongol steppe where whispers live forever, and those who listen become part of the wind.